Hey everyone, before we get into this episode, I want to let you know about my free guidebook called Music Production Essentials. It's a brief rundown of my top 24 takeaways that I've learned over the course of interviewing so many audio professionals for this podcast. So just go to secretsonics.co and you'll see the image. It's a totally free download, and I hope it helps you with your productions. Hey everyone, welcome back to Secret Sonics. This is episode 112 with Ken Lewis. Ken is a total badass, and he was so generous with his time. I had a great chat with him, and we talked about so many things, including how he was able to make a name for himself by working on Kanye's productions, how he's been able to stay so busy in this industry. We talked about his unique approach to comping vocals, which was a mind-blowing moment for me. I'm excited for you guys to hear that. We talked about asking the right questions when you're working on a song, like what does this song really need? And we spoke about his new educational platform called Mixing Night. We got into sprint mixing, developing his own plugin, and we really just dove really deep on his approach to mixing in general. So I think you're going to love this conversation. So with all that to say, here's my conversation with Ken Lewis here on Secret Sonics. You're listening to Secret Sonics, a podcast exploring the creative side of music production. Join us weekly for honest conversations with real-world music producers and audio professionals. Hello, and welcome back to Secret Sonics. I'm your host, Ben Wallach. My guest today is Ken Lewis. Ken is a top major label producer, mixer, songwriter, and musician with over 28 years of experience and over 100 gold/platinum records. Ken is the self-proclaimed holder of the weirdest resume in the music business. Indeed. He has worked with artists such as Kanye West, Usher, BTS, Lana Del Rey, Fun, Kendrick Lamar, and he even worked on Uptown Funk. I've been meaning to reach out to Ken for quite some time, and I finally did, and he's been gracious enough to agree and join me on the show. So with all that to say, welcome to Secret Sonics, Ken.
Ben, how are you, man? Good to see you.
I'm doing really good, especially now I'm getting to chat with you.
Thank you for the invite.
I'm interested a little bit, absolutely. I'm interested a little bit in your backstory. I know you're like a musician first. I know that, guides a lot of what you do. Tell me a bit about your musical, upbringing and, yeah.
So, I begged for my first guitar for 2 years before my parents knew I was serious. So at 10 years old, I get a guitar. Played in bands growing up, took guitar lessons, and then at 16 years old, I got a 4-track recorder, and then off to the races for the recording bug. And I just had, boxes and boxes of cassette tapes of recordings, and that led to I went to Berklee College of Music in Boston, graduated magna cum laude from music production and engineering in 1991. So that gives you an idea of how old I am. And then I moved back to, I'm from Cincinnati, Ohio, moved back to Ohio and worked an engineering gig at a studio back there for a year. And then I moved to New York City in 1993 and was a staff first intern, then assistant, then engineer at Soundtrack Recording in Manhattan. Went freelance in 1995, and I've been freelance working for myself since 1995, just figuring it out.
Amazing. Was there like a record, an album that changed your life that,
No. I'm waiting for the record that changes my life, and that's no bullshit. I have 104 gold records, and I feel like there has never been one of those that was like the moment that one happened, everything changed. It's much, much more been wake up every day, put one foot in front of the other, put in a hard day of work, and try and be as creative and productive as possible, and let the chips fall. And try and, do great work and surround yourself with great people, and try and have some sort of an idea of your career path, what you want to do, what you don't want to do, and really lay down a roadmap to get there. And that's kind of what I did and how I've basically tackled it.
Yeah. Well, having done it as long as you have, and having, worked with the who's who in, popular music, what is pushing you forward every single day? You mentioned even before we started the conversation that you're 7 days a week working all the time. What drives you?
What drives me partly is survival. From the outside, the music industry looks really glamorous. From the inside, it's fucking terrifying every day. I don't mean that so literally. It's a great place to work if you can find the work. And I'm really fortunate that the work always finds me. But the work always finds me because when the work finds me, I'm there and I'm available and I knock that shit out and I do my best work every single time. And a lot of people don't have that mentality. And it's just, it's not a mentality for everybody. Some people are 9 to 5ers and some people are, 9 a.m. to 5 a.m. And that's kind of how I built my career. So I don't know.
What do you think it is about, the work that you've done that's kept you so busy that so many different kinds of people have reached out for your help? And it's not just production, it's not just mixing, it's a little bit of everything, right?
It's Kanye. That's really I gotta hats off to Kanye for that one, because the first thing that I started doing with Kanye was sample recreations, and I had never done one in my life. The first time that they called me. And G. Roberson and Jay Brown called me up and they're like, do you know this young producer named Kanye West? This is before he was an artist. This was 2001 or 2. And I was like, yeah, he had a couple hits as a producer. So I knew who he was. And they asked me, they said, well, we're looking for somebody who can do rock and hip hop equally well. And we need to recreate this sample. So that was my entrance to Kanye. But once the door to Kanye land was open, I kind of became like the guy who just figured shit out when nobody else could figure shit out. So I got the weirdest resume by just being like one of the go-tos that were like Kanye is, third level brilliant, but when he has an idea and he knows what he wants, but he doesn't know how to execute it, that's what the team is for. So when the inner team can't handle whatever his vision is, usually I was on the short list of people who got the calls. So you end up with the strangest resume of the strangest things, from producing the horn section on All of the Lights to singing the chant vocals on Power, to doing drums and vocals on Lost in the World, to DJ scratches on Gold Digger. That's the one. It's every day is a different day in Kanye land whenever I get the calls. And I haven't worked with him since Pablo, so it's been a while. But from what I've heard of the Donda stuff that he's put out, I love what I'm hearing him doing right now. So, I'm a perpetual fan of his. But because he had me doing all of these crazy things, so many other artists were like, saw me on so many different records, but saw me doing so many different roles on all of those different records, they were just like, oh, well, okay, well, we can throw you crazy shit too. Here you go. This is our vision for this grandiose thing that we want to accomplish on this record, and we don't know how to get it, but we're confident that you do. And that's kind of it's a little niche that I tend to fill in the music industry. It's brought some very interesting projects my way, for sure.
It's so interesting because I feel like most people who find success are niching down so hard in one thing and maybe even just in one genre. And I feel like you have your finger on so many different aspects. I think that's kind of refreshing because I feel like, I don't know.
I don't recommend it. Seriously, to anybody listening, I do not recommend it. First off, I am a total workaholic. Not really by choice, I think by survival. Because I can definitely slow down. But the thing is that I think the music industry is not easy, period. But it's much easier to get to the higher levels of the music industry trying to be great at one thing, as opposed to trying to be really well-rounded at everything and great at one or two things. It's just, you juggle a lot more. But then the beauty of it is that I have barely looked for work a day in the last 20 years. Work finds me. I kind of get to pick and choose. And I have a really great, diverse clientele of super interesting projects. And I have this kind of superpower where, because I wear so many different hats and do so many different roles, like I'm a producer, but I'm a producer completely separately from being a mix engineer. So I may mix for somebody like P-Dog producing for BTS, and I get to see P-Dog's production, I'm one of the most brilliant producers in the world, and it's laid out for me like a road book, a road manual of how to produce a hit record, and I get to mix it for him. And so that's so informative for me as a producer and as a studio musician to be able to get to see all of these other high level people's work and help them make the best records that they can make, learn from it myself, and take some of those skill sets back to my own records and, make my own records even better. So that's kind of the circle of life.
It's a lifetime of learning, which is awesome. We're never done learning the trade.
Absolutely not. Reinvention is, if you want longevity in this business, reinvention is almost a cornerstone of that. And I'm sure I've reinvented myself a dozen times over, and I'm doing it again right now. I'm looking into the whole Atmos thing. I'm pretty sure I'm going to build an Atmos room and get into Atmos mixing and Atmos creation, not only mixing. But I want to stay music focused. I don't think I want to get into gaming and TV and stuff like that. But the studio might. But for myself, I'm really interested in being tech forward and when it makes sense to me. And I think Atmos makes a lot of sense to me.
There's like a lot of talk about Atmos as like, will this just be another one of those like fancy things that'll just kind of like, wither and die like a lot of other Dolby things? This is like the first time that people are taking it super seriously.
Well, that's because Apple made it the worldwide standard. And when the biggest creative company in the entire world makes something as significant as Dolby Atmos their creative standard for surround, and that company is also going to be an absolute leader in augmented reality moving forward, for gaming, for TV, for video, for movies, for music, for everything. They basically just said, it's Atmos. It's going to be Atmos. And so unless I'm reading all the signs wrong, it's going to be Atmos. And
it's like Atmos and NFTs. We just have to figure out our shit.
Yeah. But the other thing about Atmos is it's so confusing that I think the bar of entry to get in as a pro mixer is just, I've spent weeks trying to figure the shit out, and I'm just like, I don't know yet. But I'll figure it out.
That's interesting. I feel like, as kind of artists kind of lean deeper into engineering and kind of, all this like AI learning stuff, with Isotope and whatever plugins, it might be interesting to see how that bar, raises hypothetically. Maybe that changes who becomes an engineer and who stays as an artist,
Engineering at some level is just a tool for creativity. I think most artists are pretty crap engineers, but that doesn't mean that they don't capture themselves in the right way, because you don't have to be captured pristinely. I'm in the fucking dirty production club around here, man. I like the dirt. Give me the lo-fi shit. And, I think a lot of people, especially younger people, overthink how pristinely things need to be recorded or captured or set up for. And to me, especially as a producer, or if you're in a creative environment, speed is king. And the ability to capture ideas as they are coming out is crucially important. So if you have a production studio, you should have it set up and surrounding so that you can reach and grab anything to be creative with that the artist or you might want in that moment, even if it's not a Sony C800G for the vocal or something. It's and a perfect example of that would be we started the Des Rocks project out of here. The first two EPs were completely produced and recorded and mixed here for the foundation of the project, and those have streamed well over 100 million streams. And that was really a rapid fire setup, but all of the background vocals were cut on a SM57 in hand with speakers on in the room, just because Danny likes to pick up the mic and get ideas out. And and there wasn't enough bleed to really matter when you put it into a dense rock production. So, and we were capturing, instead of, miking up our great amplifiers and getting great amp tones, we're straight into a IK iRig